Welcome to Meeples on Meeples, episode 29. I'm Andrew.
Brian.
Ian.
First, I'd like to ask you to come see us at YouTube, subscribe to us, our website, MeeplesonMeeples.com, and also check out our Facebook page. This week, we are going to be reviewing the 3 games that we've been playing the last 3 weeks. We have DC deck building game, Sentinels of the Multiverse, and Legendary, the Marvel deck building game. We're not going to do rules this week because you can obviously see them in our other reviews, so we're just going to jump right into components here and what we think about them between the 3 of the games.
The components are, there's really not a ton to compare. I don't, personally, it's cards. I mean, they're card games. Legendary might have a leg up on the others in that this one comes with a board and tells you where to lay out the cards.
I do like the board. I'll agree with that.
And that's really cool.
I honestly think that these cards, the actual card stock, was a little bit nicer than the other 2 games.
I would agree. I think so.
Sentinels was a little bit better of card stock. Overall, I would say, what was it? Legendary had about the worst. They were fraying real bad, or was it?
The edges were already starting to get white,
yeah.
like the color was coming off or whatever, or wearing off.
And it's only been played maybe 10, 12 times, I suppose.
And then this one had the different sizes on the cards, isn't it?
No, this one has the larger the spacers to divide them up.
This
one has the bigger
that made it a
cards.
little bit easier. That
this has
made
a larger
setup
character
and all of it.
Yeah, DC has the bigger character cards.
These have the divider cards with the name of the character on it. Legendary also has that, but they're just all the generic same card, and they just say Legendary on them.
That upset me a lot.
No, well, yeah, the back of the card itself, but I'm talking about just the divider cards to actually separate them out.
All the boxes actually are not bad. The way the box, if you know, since that is a component, we can talk about that. They actually do have spaces for the different types of cards. They all have plenty of extra space in the boxes. So as you buy more cards, more add-ons, and they're releasing, you know, especially I know Legendary has a new set coming out soon. They've left room for expansions.
I do want to look at the graphics on this one. The Legendary set and the DC set, obviously the Marvel and they have their generic Marvel DC look. The Sentinel, since it's not a full comic, it's not an actual thing, it's made up by the designers and the creators, it actually looks more anime to a degree, more Japanish with the...
It does a little bit,
just in the way the cartoon looks.
I didn't think about it while playing.
Yeah, just to have them all 3, you kind of see that aspect of it. So it kind of brings out that whole genre in itself.
And I personally liked over DC and Marvel between the 2 comic book companies. I did like the art on the Marvel cards better.
Really? See, I would disagree. I think the DC had better artwork because when Marvel had Captain America cards, there might be several different Captain American cards, but they all have the same picture, so you couldn't rely on the picture to differentiate, which we point out in the review. Whereas this one, I just feel like there's a lot more variety,
more
different
in-depth.
pictures. Yeah,
okay.
it's a DC.
Well, and I can
thought.
see with that too. I just the physical art, not necessarily the.
I honestly think though I probably like the art the most in Sentinels. Maybe it's just because it's something unique and I've never seen them before.
I would agree that would.
It's eye catching.
So.
Sure.
Did we have any specific strategies, one game over the other, that we found that made one game easier to play over another one, maybe, or?
I'm not I'll come out and say a huge deck building fan. So the strategy just depends on what, especially like in DC, what flips up when it's your turn to buy cards. So. Yes, you can have a strategy. I know I'm going to get flamed for that. You can form a strategy, and you do want to pick certain cards.
Right.
In DC, for instance, I blew everyone away when I loaded up on Suicide Squads. You know, that one game I just lucked out. I got tons of them, and I don't know if you guys didn't notice or whatever, but I just had 6 of them at the end of the game, which just made my score huge.
So necessarily, since the DC and the Marvel are deck building games, and Sentinels is not necessarily a deck building game, but it's
you have a set deck. That
you do have a set
as your
deck.
Character.
Right, but you're not trying to build a deck. Would you say that one was easier than the other one to
Of these
build?
2?
Yeah.
Or
to necessarily build a good hand in a deck? Because I believe the DC, when I was trying to build with it, it's easier to create and get more points and a more effective hand.
I felt the same way. That of these 2, DC was easier. What do you think?
I'm with the DC, but just overall, it was just kind of a...
Because this one's not really a deck building. You already just get the cards you get. But.
Just a kind of general overview of, I guess, this... They all had their different ways of playing it anyway, so they're really... amongst all the games, they're really different in each one of their aspects as far as how you play through the game with your deck as you build it.
I feel that Sentinels is the easiest to have a strategy because you know what your cards are. You have a set deck. Okay, I
Right.
am this character. I know, instead of having to buy and hope I get certain powers, I know what powers I have.
This
I know
was
how to
only-
play this character to his or her strengths.
This was the only one that you could play with each other as a strategy. The other two was everybody for themselves, really.
For the most part. Marvel's a little more co-op, I think, than DC, probably.
I could agree with
But
that. Yeah.
but I'd say because this one you know what you have, it's the easiest to go into the game with a set strategy.
Yeah, no, I mean you try to pick your characters based on the villain that you'd even want. I mean that one, even setting up the game, you want to start building your strategy amongst the group.
Right, and I think Sentinels actually does a pretty good job of emulating deck building, even though you're not necessarily building the deck, because you're drawing 5 cards, or I don't remember exactly the number, but you don't know exactly which cards you're going to get. It's not like you get
There's
to
still some luck, yeah.
Still
right.
randomized.
You know, you don't get to choose exactly. I have these 5 moves, and this is what we get to use every time, and so it still gives a little bit of an element of a deck building game, even though it's not.
That would bring us to, so we've covered components, we've covered strategy, so likes and dislikes about them.
I think we kind of covered that in the middle there, and we kind of skipped over telling people we're going to do likes and dislikes.
Well, I was talking about strategy for the most part. I mean,
Okay.
Go ahead.
There really isn't an oversweeping strategy you could apply to any one of these games because they really are different. I mean,
Well, likes and
you
dislikes?
can compare the two, like
Right.
Marvel and DC, to be basically they're both comic book based, but honestly they play completely different, and you can't really put them together as I build decks this way in this game, I build decks this way in this game, and the rules just separate them two very, very distinctly.
Right. So specifically, out of the 3 games, is there anything you especially like one over the other?
Something I like about Sentinels is the fact that it actually, to me it felt more like a comic book because the villain went every turn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we all play a turn, and the villain has a set turn, and the way his turn plays out, or his or her, I guess. So that's kind of cool that the villain is interacting with you way more often than in the Marvel or DC games.
So it's a little more organized on turn bases.
And it feels more, and it just feels like there's more give and take, more of a battle happening.
Right.
And there's also the what's the word I'm looking for? The city, the location deck in Sentinels and Multiverse.
Yep.
So you feel like you're interacting with the environment. That's the word I'm looking for.
What's the
Yeah.
environmental variable in this one? It was the
The civilians were always getting...
no, but there was a scheme.
Well, in the villain
and-
scheme.
Yeah, there was.
so there was a plot line.
Right, and there was the 5 squares. Depending on where the villain was sitting, they could have special attributes, like if you got them during a certain area, if they're in the street or.
Part of the city, yeah.
So I mean,
It gives you a little bit of an environment from
somewhat,
that.
yeah. But there's nothing really.
There's
in the
nothing
DC.
like that in DC
No.
at all. No. If that's what you're looking for, DC probably fails pretty hardcore.
So do we
getting that
want
feel,
to
that theme across.
roll into our overall reviews here, one at a time? Well,
Sure, you want to go first?
Sure. I didn't really care for Legendary all that much. Played through it a couple times, just wasn't my favorite. DC, it was a fun game. It just didn't really catch me on the theme and everything. It was just basically numbers. But if that's your thing, pretty good game. Overall, I liked Sentinels of the Multiverse the best. It was just my favorite when it came to, like we were talking, turns, and it was more co-op, and I kind of favored the co-op and things like that. So I would say that overall, I liked Sentinels of the Multiverse best.
I'm going to piggyback on that. I feel pretty much the exact same way. Legendary, I think, is the weakest, and I know it's very, very well loved on the interwebs, but that's fine. Sentinels is stronger than all the others because of the theme, because you have that deck, and because it's not trying to be a deck builder. You feel like you're playing that superhero. Whereas in DC, why the heck is Superman buying the Batmobile one turn, and why is he using a utility belt, and why does he have Aquaman's Trident in it? You're getting weird stuff that doesn't match your hero at all. This one, you feel like you're playing a set hero. But here's the thing. If somebody wanted to have 2 of these games in their this would be the number 1 to get. But it's pretty heavy, complicated, it's longer, it'd be hard to teach newbies.
In your opinion.
In my opinion.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, just fact. This is the one
Straight
to
up
get.
fact.
Straight up. Everyone else's opinions are wrong. But if you wanted to have 2, Legendary in some ways might be a better game in the board and the components, but I would say if you have Sentinels, you don't need that. Push it off to the side and get DC as your second one. This would be a good one for teaching new players. It plays a lot faster if you don't have a lot of time. The setup's a lot easier than Legendary. So this would be like a quicker, faster, get somebody introduced to this type of game. And then when you're ready for something meatier, you have more time, then you play Sentinels, the Multiverse. I don't really think your collection would need Legendary if you had both. Not saying this is a great game, but it's a good game, and it's fast, and I think people would like it.
I loved Sentinels. That was number one. It was engrossing. It felt like a superhero, and it felt like you were playing it. And it was even if you lost, you felt bad about the loss, and as a group. And you're like, oh, I could have had him.
And when we reviewed this one first, I almost wish we could go back, because I was like, oh, it's a 7.5. Having played these two, I think I reviewed this too low. Now that I've seen the competition,
now
I've seen the competition, I think I would have rated this higher.
But I think same thing. So I think I gave maybe a 7.
I feel bad. It's a great game.
This was a problem for me to pick up and start playing right away, because it was really weird with the wording on the cards and things like that. So that was really the only drawback of the game. It was just hard to kind of push through and play the game with everybody,
interpret the rules,
everything, and kind of get through it. DC was very easy to pick up, and Legendary was follow through. But setup on this one is just poor. I guess is the only way to say it.
And it's not that it's, how can we word this? It's not complicated. It's just unnecessary work. I've got to divide all these cards up and shoot, and then you have to divide them all back up when you pack it up again at the end. Separating cards all the time.
Just set up, tear down, and the gameplay was just okay. I mean, DC was fun. It was good. It was easy to set up, easy to play, and easy to understand. It was very quick and
concise,
and you understood it.
Right.
And I liked that component of it, but this has pretty much everything I like in a game. This was secondary, and then Legendary was.
So our conclusion comes down to:
if
you want a great superhero card game,
we're gonna review
buy Sentinels of the Multiverse. If you're a deck builder you just love deck building, you like superheroes, pick up DC.
There's room for both, I think.
Yeah, I believe there is too, but overall I'd say if you had to choose one...
Legendary. Okay.
No.
Wow. Okay. Anyway,
all three of us.
So yes.
Sentinels.
Sentinels of the Multiverse is the one that we would all choose if we had to buy one. So... Thanks for joining us this week. Did we decide on a game next week?
We never do that. That would be professional. However, I was thinking we should review Wiz War.
Wiz War? All right.
It's a great game.
Brief intermission.
Yeah, invasion from outer space. I'm not going to be here next week.
You're not going to be here because that's a big, heavy game to learn and play in one night in review.
Same as last night.
Alright, okay, so we'll come back from there. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, just don't. Stop. Just leave it as it is.